of the days.
And so I'm going to have to wrap it up there, guys, because we got another half of this piece talking about, you brought up Elk Grove has an RFP that's coming out. And so people who have that special knowledge and could do that sort of thing, you would want to hear the second piece, because a lot of, I just remember when Lauren Hammond was city council, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were the one that made sure that there was a business council or advisory committee that you can make sure that small businesses or Black-owned businesses, minority businesses, period, had a chance at some of those contracts that were coming to the city. And since you left, so did that advisory business committee. And so it's no longer there. And so what's happening, we heard the story earlier about not having Black restaurants, and part of being on the menu to get money. And so that didn't happen. So we need to at least start teaching and giving our community more information on how to grow their business and what they need to do in order to get some of these contracts through the city and otherwise. And one of the things, and I'll bring that information through our constant contact. The city let me know earlier this week that they're going to start. Everybody knows the 311. You go and call 311. Now they're going to have a 311 portal where if you have a business, you can register your business into this 311 portal, something that they're going to start looking at to see the various businesses that they may be missing, especially minorities. And so when they told me about it, it's like, when did this happen? And how come we don't know about it? And so we need to make sure, NAACP needs to make sure that our community knows about it, because we know of many businesses, but they are not known to the rest of the community or the city in order to get a contract. So they were supposed to send me a flyer. I had not received it yet, but as soon as I do receive that flyer, I will send it out through our newsletter, Constant Contact. And then they also agreed to do some type of training to show businesses how easy it is to register your business into the city of Sacramento. And with that, I'm going to introduce Stacy, I believe, who's going to introduce the panel that's going to talk about getting your RFPs or getting your businesses together so that you can receive money. So Stacy, I'm going to hand it off to you, and money for your business. Okay, and go from there. I think it's Stacy, right?
Lorraine.
Okay.
Actually, Betty.
Pardon me?
Hi everyone.
Lorraine, I'm so sorry.
Okay, me and Stacy, but okay. Thanks, Betty. I'm learning more. I work on special projects with the Sacramento NAACP.
Lorraine, your bandwidth
Yes.
is something that's real shaky right now. Just wanted to let you know. Try it again.
Okay. Can you hear me better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, keep going.
Oh. Okay. I am also CEO of Elite Professional, which is a business and live consultation. And we have partnered with the city of Sacramento, partnered with the city of Sacramento to provide information on RFPs, how you can get money for your business. And we put this presentation together. We're going to be offering it in 3 series. So be sure to come back to the November 13th and December 11th town hall meetings for the 2nd and 3rd parts. And we're also going to be putting these on our YouTube channel. And Stacy's going to be moving through this information and also posing some questions to our guest panelists who have had direct contact and experience with RFPs. So thank you.
All right. Well, I'm Stacy, and I will be hosting for you today and going through our agenda on money for your business. So we're going to be going over today who we are, what is an RFP, and where to find an RFP. Now, on November 13th, we do want you to come back because we're going to talk about how to respond to an RFP and win prospective clients, how to use RFP funds, and how to structure your business. That's going to be how to do that. That's going to be on December 11th. So you don't want to miss any of these town halls coming up. So for more information and detailed information on the process, go ahead and there'll be a place where you can sign up, and that will give you more in-depth information on how to, and mentorship on how to further work on the RFPs. All right, next slide. All right, so today we have some guest speakers. There will be Belinda Van Zant Perez. She's the Grants Project Manager for California Black Health Network. We'll have Regina Wilson, Communications Guru of California Black Media. And we'll have Selena Pryor, who is the President of the Black Small Business Association of California. Next slide. All right, so who we are. So we are Sacramento NAACP that is hosting the RFP series for you, which is, community activists partner with various organizations to bring resources to the community. And then there's Elite Professional Incorporation, Inc., Life and Business Consultation. And there's One Solution, LLC, Recruiting and Outreach. And then there's In It to Win It, Business Consultation. Next slide. So just to go over this presentation, who is this presentation for? Who should be participating in this presentation? That would be small business owners and entrepreneurs, and upcoming entrepreneurs as well. Next slide. All right, problem statement. There are very many small businesses out there that miss out on the opportunity, as Ms. was speaking of, to win bids for various jobs and contracts because of the lack of knowledge, getting information late, not knowing how to apply, or their businesses not properly set up to win and deliver on a bid. So this initiative is designed to provide information on the RFPs and help businesses to be in position to apply for and win a bid and structure their business to be compliant. Next slide. So what is an RFP? So RFP is a request for proposal. It's a document that announces a detailed project looking for businesses to bid by presenting a proposal on how they will fulfill the request, either goods or services. And to fully understand what an RFP is, you'll need to know the proposal definition as well. So let's see what that is. The proposal is sent in response to an RFP, and documents that are offered while attempting to persuade the RFP issuer to buy a product or service from a particular vendor, which means your business. So the proposal should detail how the vendor meets the needs of the buyer. In addition, the proposal answers any questions outlined in the RFP to help the buyer compare vendors side by side. So guess what? You're not the only one bidding, and you're not the only one proposing, okay? So the RFP process simply includes 3 steps: issuing the RFP, collecting proposals, selecting a winner. So ultimately, the RFPs enable businesses to seek out and find the right vendor to help meet the need to overcome a challenge or achieve a strategic objective. And those are really important to remember, because when you are responding to a challenge that they're having to achieve a strategic objective, right? So RFPs allow buyers to create a complex side-by-side vendor comparison of important factors. For instance, the RFP may ask about, reliability, experience, quality, policies, and security. Okay, where are we at? Okay, so the 9 steps of how RFPs work is 1, they brainstorm their needs. So define the RFP, meaning the challenge they want to overcome or goal they want to achieve, as well as what success will look like for them. create RFP questions, they establish scope and prioritize selection criteria. So that's what we'll be looking out for. And then creating a meaningful RFP. So it's very important because all our RFPs are not going to be a good RFP. So you want to keep that in mind. Now it's time to write the RFP. So what does that include? Includes questions that speak to your specific needs and situation. Invite vendors. The next thing they'll do is invite vendors to respond. So now that they've written the RFP, it's time to gather vendor proposals. So this is the exciting part, right? Develop a list of vendors. They may develop a list of vendors on their own and ask them to respond directly. Or some of the organizations may have bid services that post RFPs publicly. This option can increase their responses, but it might also lead to several irrelevant responses for them. So evaluating the proposal. So once vendor responses are gathered, they'll want to score their answers to determine which vendor truly best fits their needs. And then they'll select their short list. So based on their initial proposal evaluation, they may create a vendor short list, a list of 5 or so vendors who they, are qualifying that they, want to move to the next stage of the RFP process. So these will be the serious contenders only. So you can picture your organization partnering with, right? And so some may request an RFP presentation from the person that's, responding to help them make their final decisions if they have a couple of people in a couple of organizations or small businesses in mind. And then they're going to negotiate. So perhaps there's a vendor on their short list that will be, they're looking at, they're eyeing, and they're ahead, like they want to choose that one, right? However, the price may not be quite right for them. So most vendors will be happy to negotiate a bit. So especially if they know how close they are to that purchasing decision. So the vendor, so let the vendor know what potentially winning the RFP means for them. So basically they will, kind of have that negotiation and, with the small business or whom they're going to choose to participate in helping them with their organization or with their RFP. So making your final selection. So now this is the fun part, making the actual selection. Just because you didn't select a vendor today doesn't mean they won't be a viable option for your organization in the future. So what does that mean for small businesses? Stay in collaboration, okay? Just because you didn't get picked on that one doesn't mean it won't come around for them to pick you next time. And so that's a good advice there. So they're going to sign the contract. So now it's time to make it official. So some of them may have lawyers review their contract and the language before signing anything, so they can make sure that they're setting themselves up to receive what their expectations are, right? So ongoing review. Finally, they'll want to establish an ongoing vendor evaluation process. So this approach ensures vendors deliver the return on investment, ROI, and results that they want to have achieved. So make sure to let the vendor know about any areas where you feel they're falling short so they have an opportunity to correct and meet your expectations. Now, this was on the side of the RFP because you need to understand what that entails so that you can be prepared. You can prepare yourself ahead of time before trying to answer one. Okay, so where to find RFPs? Mandy, can you click that? We have the City of Sacramento grants, just to give you an idea of what this looks like. So this is their website. And so this is, basically the platform, just to let you see give you an idea of what you'd be, looking at. Okay, we can go out of there. And then a sample of an RFP. what an actual RFP looks like. So this is an example of what an RFP actually looks like. Okay, we can go out of there. We can go out of there now. All right, next. All right, so next steps. So attend the November 13th and December 11th workshop. Sign up for hands-on workshop at our Constant Contact landing page. And then we want to talk about to become a member and receive information about opportunities and to sign up for our hands-on workshop. Go to the next slide. We want you to become an NAACP member today. Don't wait till tomorrow, do it today. To sign up, please visit naacpsac.com or call or text us at 916-856-0155. Okay, next. Next slide. Okay, so go back up to the top and we're going to bring our panelists up. All right, so Belinda and Regina and Selena, we're gonna go and ask Belinda Van Zandt to go ahead and say a little bit about herself, introduce herself. She's the Grants Project Manager with California Black Health Network.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I thank you for having me. I am currently a Grants Project Manager for California Black Health Network. And my previous experience in grants comes from grant analyst for the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, or GOBIZ. And prior to that, I was also a kind of an operations analyst for grant funded programs through the state health department. I'm working in HIV prevention programs and other programs. And so my experience comes from helping local nonprofit organizations kind of get ready for eligibility to be applying for grant opportunities, but also to help manage their grants as well. So kind of on grant administration. So, so I can speak a little bit to that for the business side and also for local nonprofit organizations as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. And Regina Wilson, she's the communications guru, California Black Media.
I love that you guys gave me the guru title. I think I should change that on all my stuff, but I think you're being way too generous. I don't know if I'm a guru at it, but my name is Regina Wilson. As I said, I'm the executive director for California Black Media. And California Black Media is a nonprofit that advocates on behalf of Black-owned media outlets throughout the state. Traditionally, your newspaper publications, but we have radio stations that are partners, and we also, and there's about 4 Black radio stations that are in California, digital sites, and we all come together kind of collectively in partnership to ensure that we are helping to reduce and close that communication gap that's within our communities. And as I heard in that previous conversation, you know, it feels very defeating because we have so many things that distract us around communication. Our communication is fractured. It's there when it works, but it's fractured for so many different reasons. And funding is one of those reasons. And so today, I guess I think they have me here because I've actually written several successful grants and responded to successful RFPs. Belinda actually was my grant manager for an RFP that I won that I think it was my first big one. And Belinda, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it was like almost 600,000. Maybe it was like a little under 600,000 to organizations. And it was really my first grant. And not that I didn't know what I was doing, but I read, and that was part of the thing, is what you said, Stacey, earlier, is reading and being able to respond to what the requester is asking for, and being able to really explain how you plan on achieving the objectives that they need you to meet. So I've been successful there, and we'll talk about other successful RFPs that I've responded to.
Excellent, Regina. Thank you so much. And Selena Pryor, President of the Black Small Business Association of California.
I had to check the time. It's still morning. Good morning. I'm Selena Pryor. I'm the president of the Black Small Business Association of California. My experience is a little different. I started BSBA during the pandemic out of sheer frustration because I was getting phone calls from my friends who weren't able to take advantage of a lot of the financial resources that were being offered, like the PPP and the EIDL. The city of Sacramento had an emergency loan, which was a forgivable loan, which was essentially a grant. And so we just started putting information out and saying, hey, this is available. Here's how you apply. You know, we're in a sheltered in place. And so, you know, if you are a business owner, then you could possibly qualify for pandemic unemployment insurance. And what we found was, assistance. And what we found was that a lot of people in our community, a lot of business owners just didn't know that the information was out there. And so the reason why I'm saying this is because the city of Sacramento put out an RFP for technical assistance, to provide technical assistance to small businesses. And when I saw it, I was like, no, I'm not going to do all of that. I don't feel like doing all of that. I was very intimidated by just the length of it. I read it. I was like, seems like a lot of work. I don't want to really do that. And then I got a call from someone and said, hey, you better do this. You apply, just do it anyway. And I actually was successful and was awarded the grant for the RFP. And so I'm not going to say that I'm not very intelligent, because I am, but I will say that the process can be daunting. And especially the first time you go through it, it's scary, you know, because you don't really know, you know, what to put, how much to put. But you know, if you're a person that just wants to write a paragraph, this probably isn't the thing for you. You probably don't want to be on this call, because these RFPs they're pretty extensive. I mean, in hindsight, it was a great opportunity. It was a great experience, because I met a lot of people within the city that I think have been great. I think the biggest thing that I probably took away from that is that you have to have mentors, and you have to have people who understand the process and know what you're doing, so that you can call them. Like Regina's like she's speed dial number 2. Betty is number 1. I have somebody else that's number 3. Like I have people that I can call and say, hey, what do you think about this? Bounce these ideas off of them, and then be able to put them down on paper, which is essentially what responding to an RFP is. So I'm very excited about this conversation. I'm very happy that the NAACP is doing this, and I will relinquish my stand back to Stacey.
Great, Selena. That is great. All of you guys have given great insight already. And like you said, it takes that mentorship and that body of workers together, a group of people to help so that we are successful. So I have a question for you guys. Please share your expertise by guiding us through what you feel will be the most important steps of preparing to apply for an RFP. And we can go with Belinda first.
Yes, thank you for that question. I would say the most important piece in applying is just to make sure that the applicant is reading through the entire document prior to putting pieces together and putting responses together. What we've seen a lot in kind of the grant making world is that a lot of applications tend to be missing pieces of information. They're not answering the questions fully. Sometimes there are questions that have maybe 2 questions in one. So just make sure that you're reading through each question, you understand what it is that the RFP is doing, but also that you're understanding the questions as well. And like Selena was mentioning earlier, just if you are unsure about a question, reach out to someone that has either received funding from that organization, or say, hey, you know, this is the question. I'm not sure if this is how I should go about this. Can I run this by you? I think that that's where a lot of folks sometimes can get mixed up with how to respond to the questions. It's just not fully reading them through. The other thing I would say is also making sure that you're understanding the intention of the application or the RFP, making sure you're understanding the goals. You are you have an idea of how you're going to go about achieving those goals while you're writing it. Because the reviewers of the RFPs will be able to glean some information about your business or about your organization from the responses. So they want to make sure that they fully understand who you are and who you're serving. So make sure that you are able to speak to their objectives, to their goals, and that would give you great success in crafting your responses.
That's awesome. Awesome. How about Selena?
What was the question again? I'm yelling at my son about these dishes.
Okay. Please share your expertise by guiding us through what you feel will be the important steps of preparing to apply for an RFP.
Okay, so my approach is a little different. I have several like different types of programs that I've prepared and written. I've prepared a statement of qualifications. And so when I'm applying for an RFP, I usually have several different, projects that I've written that I can kind of pull from. And so I know what I'm capable, like I just know what I know, so I can pull those different items from all of these different things to create the RFP to reply for, or to reply to the RFP that they're asking for. I think knowing what you do, knowing how it works, knowing how you envision a program rolling out is extremely helpful when you're applying for something or you're responding to something. So I think pre-preparation and just, knowing what it is that your organization does is key.
Awesome. Awesome. And Regina.
Yep, I would just echo what my colleagues have said. Reading is fundamental. That is my life. And you need to read, you need to, once again, you need to read and thoroughly read everything and answer everything. And you need to know what your business does. Don't try to go after every RFP. And what you need to do, like for the grant that I won, that Belinda was the administrator on, or grant analyst on, I knew what the legislation said. I knew that there was wiggle room around what certain things meant. And I needed to then craft my response to say, this is how you would best reach folks in our community. And I think I would have her say this, but I think we did it. We have been doing a really good job. Obviously we got hit with, be prepared and ready for the corona. Nobody could be ready for the pandemic, but be ready now for pandemic type situations. Another thing that I think that some people don't know too is I always, when I started California Black Media, I thought, give me the money right now. Why can't I have this money right now? Somebody wants to give me $25,000. And I said, what am I going to do with this? Like, I'm grateful, but what am I going to do with this? And what it was training me for was a lesson in understanding process and procedure. And we got, I think from our first big grant, once we really solidified ourselves as a 501c3 nonprofit, we brought on a CPA. We've had a CPA making sure that they're handling our finances. And, I've had to learn budgets, especially if you don't know this stuff, you've had to learn it. And I've been learning. I just recently had another big real learning scare because my computer was broke. My car was broken into, my computers were stolen. So I lost everything. Even from thinking that you back things up that you didn't really back up. I mean, I'm literally starting from scratch. Thank God I lived in email a little bit, so I am able to get documents back. But now, I would tell anybody who is just starting out, I know it's hard because you're volunteering, ain't got no money, but get with somebody who knows systems so that you come up with a good filing system that's, cloud-based, even though I didn't like the cloud, but now I'm like, I wish I would have been in the cloud more. Definitely look at all of these things, because all of these are learning lessons, and you get to learn from other people like me and Belinda and Selena, and know also that you want to make sure all your filing paperwork is straight. One of the programs that Selena managed, that the Cal CRG, we didn't have our AG paperwork straight. Thank God I lived in Sacramento and I could go straight to the AG's office just because there was something that wasn't filed. Make sure your Secretary of State information is, legit. I think whenever Selena talked about the city of Sacramento, a lot of people didn't have, DBAs or business licenses in the city. And so therefore that then became a hindrance. So you want to kind of try to find out all of the paperwork you need to make sure that your stuff is in line and in order. And it is painful initially, but when you do it, that is a learning process. So you are ready and prepared to go for these opportunities once they come up.
All right, we are listening. So question, from your perspective, all of you, what is the single most challenging aspect of this process? And anyone?
Writing. I think it's writing the proposal. I mean, if you're not a writer, naturally, I would say, my colleagues may say something different, but I think it's writing the proposals, knowing about them in enough time, because sometimes I will give you guys an example. This wasn't a grant, but I got an RFP for the Secretary of State's, someone just forwarded to me, but the Secretary of State's voter education campaign, it was a $17 million RFP. It ended up being about 16 million, but I put together a team in 5 days and we responded to it and we won. And all I could say at that point is it was a lot. It was tedious. It wasn't the formal process because it was underneath emergency timelines. So, I mean, I'm sure that we could have been disqualified for certain things, but we were the best and strongest team they felt. And I got to say that the hardest thing was, taking the time to coordinate a 15-page RFP, not going over, and being able to submit everything on time. It's a lot. It's especially if you have other work that you're doing. So be prepared for short turnaround times.
All right. Anybody else have any input, Belinda or Lorraine? Not Lorraine. Lorraine, you too can. Belinda?
Yeah, I can add to that. Definitely, I second everything that Regina said. The writing piece can be a little daunting, especially depending on the size of the grant. Usually large grants will ask some heavy involved questions, but that's because they are giving out a lot of money. But usually those are long-term grants. So sometimes it's worth it to put in the effort, I would say. But also smaller grants sometimes will ask possibly less questions. So it's kind of just, you have to really get familiar with it. The other kind of item I would say is if you're working in collaboration with another business or with another nonprofit organization, there are lots of nuances that come along with that, right? Just working with other folks in general, you're working with other businesses, whether you have an established partnership or if it's a first time collaboration, just making sure that each party going into it kind of has an understanding of their roles and responsibilities that they're going to take on, even during the application phase, not just during, it's like, okay, we got this grant, now let's figure out how we're going to make it work and what we're going to do. But also just making sure that everyone on each side knows what their role is, knows who's taking care of what. If there's going to be one main lead for the collaboration, make sure that lead, kind of do your homework, make sure that lead has all of their ducks in a row, that they have all of their paperwork in order, that their board is all okay and on board with that application. Unfortunately, I've seen sometimes some grantees have not either had that establishment or were kind of figuring out things as they went. And it makes it a little harder to manage the grant after that. So I would definitely advise anyone that's doing a collaboration to just make sure that you have those really important conversations. And it only helps to strengthen the collaboration. Because you can find that some folks have strengths in one area and some folks may have strengths in another. And combining those strengths, that makes it for an even better RFP. So, so yeah, definitely with the collaborations, kind of making sure all the parties read through, your collaborators have all of their documentation in order, and everyone knows which activities they're responsible for.
Great, great. It sounds like while they're interviewing you, you should also be interviewing, right? Which was a part that was on the slideshow. Selena.
I think both of these ladies kind of answered this question very eloquently. What I would say though is, if you are responding to a grant and a grant request or RFP, and they want you to be a 501c3 and you're not, but what you do is like totally in line with that grant, find out if you can partner with another a 501c3 to become a fiscal agent for you, where they apply. And I don't know all the proper terms because I just started this a year ago and I'm still learning. I'm gonna be completely honest. Some of this stuff is like Greek to me, but I'm just writing everything down and trying to process and figure it out. But I know who to call for the right answers. But I think everybody should have, if you're not a 501c3, some kind of organization that you partner with that serves as a fiscal agent for you. And Belinda probably could speak more to exactly what I'm saying. I just know that I'm waiting for my paperwork. And so I have to have an organization in place that can kind of manage the money part.
You're absolutely right, Selena.
Okay, I wrote that down, so I processed it. Yeah, so that's what I would say, like, that's important, because there are some RFPs that come out that you're like, oh my God, I could kill this. I could really, really do this, but you're not eligible because you don't have, the right setup. And so it's very important to have collaborations with people that do have the right setup and create these great, beautiful partnerships that Regina was talking about. So, yeah.
That's
I have a
good.
question.
Okay.
What kind of format do the requests for proposals come in? Word or PDF?
I think it can vary from where it comes from. I think I was on a listserv that came from GoBiz for one, but I was forwarded an email that was a PDF for the Secretary of State. So I think it can vary. I think you just want to look at wherever RFPs are posted. I also wanted to make like another side note, because I'm a newspaper person, for those that are still looking, there are certain, there's California law where there are certain RFPs that you will find in your local newspapers that are just, it's mandatory that they're published there. Typically the people who have them are the Sacramento Bee and certain other, depending on where you are in the state, that they will publish them there. 9 times out of 10, they're publishing on their website. But if you look back at the legal section, you will see, like, if you are in a city and they are looking for somebody to do sidewalks, sidewalk repair work, you can look there. If you were looking as far as the state and you're looking at Caltrans or something like that, you can go on their website. I was instrumental in helping to ensure that the gas SB1 gas tax dollars are now going to be in legally adjudicated newspapers. So that would be somebody like a Sacramento Observer for Sacramento, that they will now be required to carry in print, not just on the website, but also in print in community newspapers, so that people who are like, hey, I'm looking for this, but you're looking for other things as well, you'll be able to look there too. And that's sometimes the reason that cities don't get a huge response. Sometimes the RFP can be ridiculously worded and people are like, I'm not gonna go through all that work for that little bit of money, or not knowing if I'm gonna get it. Sometimes it can be that they're just not good at outreach. And that I wanna say I got a call, I think, Selena, was it a month ago, in the city of Elk Grove, because I'm California Black Media, not knowing who we are, but because of our name, I was called from somebody from Elk Grove and they just said, can you send this out to like all the Black people? And I had to laugh. So I sent it to the NAACP and to Selena, like, what am I supposed to do with this? But I let them know, because they were thinking, hey, I did this to check off the box, and they really have to do meaningful outreach. So I think you're going to see it in a lot of different formats. Just, be on the watch.
And I also wanted to add that we are actually going to be having examples of what they look like, how to structure the format and getting your logo and all that in our next series. So come back to the next one in November and in December. We're going to actually show you examples of them.
I also wanted to add for the city of Sacramento, I'm sorry, there's a mouse, close the door. For the city of Sacramento, I'm registered with a program called Planet Bids. And every time an RFP comes out in the area that I've selected, so consulting, technical assistance, whatever it is, I get an email that says, hey, City of Sacramento is looking for an organization to do X, Y, and Z. Check out this bid, and you click on it, you can view it or you can download it, and it's usually in a PDF format. But Planet Bids is the program that the city of Sacramento uses, and you can register in a bunch of different cities and they'll send you the RFPs that they have available.
Great.
Excellent. Okay. And so anyone who has questions, if you want to propose a question, please do jump right in. I'm going to ask a question. In your experience, what was the most, or what is the most rewarding aspect of RFPs, or getting the
Getting
response?
that phone call saying, hey, guess what? We want to work with you.
Yep.
And you're like,
Ditto.
really?
Ditto.
Yeah.
Melinda?
I completely understand how you feel, Selena. I'm actually on the other side of those phone calls because I'm the one making the phone call. And just hearing, I think the best part about it, for one, I'm a Black woman and I live in Sacramento. And so when I have the opportunity to give grant funding to organizations that I would take interest in or know that they're supporting my community, that makes me emotional. And so to be able to make those phone calls and say, hey, we want to work with you, you're doing such great work. That's the best part for me. But like I said, I'm a little biased on that, but also just hearing the passion. When I was working in grant administration, I would have conversations with each of my grantees, and just me personally, I wanted to know who they were, what they were about, who they served, and just who they were as people, right? And so just having those conversations with them, hearing about their passions, why they got into the work that they're doing, why they're serving the community, that's where I think that's when a grant manager knows that, okay, this organization, they're going to do what they need to do because they understand and they know the community really well. Not saying that the organizations that don't, work with the communities, that they aren't going to do well, but just know that they have that passion and they have that drive. It's fulfilling as a grantor. And so that's probably one of the biggest kind of passions that I have with grant making and grant writing, or grant management, is just being able to work with those folks and work with communities in general, just communities all over the state. I've primarily done just California grants, but just working with communities all over the state, knowing that they're working to improve the health and wellness and the overall well-being of their communities. So I think that that's also a really big part of it.
I want to add to that, because Belinda, what she just said, and actually Regina said it because I worked with Belinda through the GoBiz grant for expungement, and I had to submit my first report, and having someone like Belinda on the other end explaining how to do those things and walk you through it with patience, and we walked through every single corner, and no matter what I asked, she was like, I'm like, this may be a stupid question, and she would always correct me, say it absolutely is not. And nope, I understand what you're saying. Nope, let's go through it like this. And so when she left, I thought, oh my God. And we end up working together anyway. We both share a client together. And for the longest, she's been with this client that we both share. And I didn't know it was the same Belinda. That was the funniest thing. She's like, Betty doesn't realize I was her Go Biz manage person. And so to have her on this team is just, I mean, Regina and I both talked about Belinda when we first got the Go Biz grant, and it was just amazing. So to have these three, four, actually, I'm gonna say all Stacy, Lorraine, Regina, Selena, and Belinda. What is it with these names? Belinda, Selena. It's like, okay, I digress. But they have you five amazing Black women on this panel just to talk about how to get your money. And then I just want to add another piece to it. And when they said read, and understand your timelines, and I know Selena will appreciate this story because it was shared with me that someone that did an amazing RFP, but the RFP got in 6 minutes late. And so they wanted that RFP. It was hitting all the bells and whistles and everything that was needed. But with the city of Sacramento, when you put in an RFP through their Planet Bid, through their portal, it has a clock on there. From the day it starts ticking up until the last moment. If it says 5 o'clock on this particular day, it means 5 o'clock on that particular day to the second. And if you submit it, or if your system is slow, or if you have a dinosaur computer, you need to keep that in mind. If you're submitting something and you know it's going to take a minute to upload, and the upload doesn't get into the system until after that clock hits, they cannot, as great as it is, they cannot accept your RFP. So that's some of the many stories I heard where people weren't even, they didn't even register as a business with the city of Sacramento. And other than that, everything else was done, but they didn't get the RFP because they forgot to submit a business. They forgot to get the business license. So just little things that you don't even know that you received it, but because you forgot to read or didn't manage your time, you missed out or may have missed out. But I wanted to share
If
that.
I can add to one thing that Ms. Betty said, and Betty, it was a pleasure working with you, and Regina too. All of my grantees are awesome.
I want to know why I wasn't introduced. I feel some kind of way.
But I just wanted to add to one thing that Miss Betty was saying regarding like getting paperwork in and applying at the last minute. So just one thing I'll say, and then I'll say another one as well, but kind of understand the way that the systems are working. So when you're submitting these applications, a lot of them are using online application platforms. And so when they shut down, they shut down. And even if the grantee or the grantor wanted to, they couldn't allow your application to come through. And that makes it fair. You want an organization that kind of runs like that because you do want it to be a fair process for everyone, right? So that's just one side of it. The other thing, just to kind of mention, is don't be afraid to reach out to the team that is putting out the application or the RFP. A lot of them are willing, ready, and able, and very eager as well to answer your questions regarding paperwork, regarding if you're not understanding a question, go ahead and reach out to them. Unless it specifically says, they won't answer questions. Each part of it, go ahead and reach out to them. I think I had spoken with Regina before she actually applied, and I remember that she was asking questions, not just to me, but to our entire team. So having an understanding of the questions, the documents that you'll need to submit, making sure that you have all of your I's dotted and your T's crossed. It's very, very helpful, and it's very beneficial for help saving time. So that way, when it comes to the application date, when you're under crunch time, you're not scrambling at the last minute trying to get paperwork in. Regina, if you don't mind me using you as an example.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because I remember.
Yeah. When she was referring to the AG paperwork, she was on it. She found out that, I think we were communicating and we emailed her saying, hey, you're not eligible because, this document is out of date. I don't know how quick it was, but she got on the phone or in the car or something, went down to the AG's office, but it was a few days before the application deadline. So my point is that you want to make sure that anything that you're not sure about, just contact them. There's usually a number or an email that you can reach out to that team, because they want to give out money. A lot of these state departments, they have millions of dollars and they don't want to sit on it. They want to give it out to the community, especially with the Cal CRG team at GoBiz. So they're ready to answer your questions. They want to take those phone calls with folks, set up meetings if you need to, with your whole entire grant team. So if your accountant needs to listen in on some of these, if your grant writer needs to listen in on some of these meetings, invite them as well. So I just wanted to add that.
And I just want to say, whenever she said that, like when you're looking at formulas, and me who uses, what's the right side of your brain or the left side, whichever side does not math or numbers, not math, but numbers. I literally was looking at spreadsheets like, oh my God, wait, what does this mean? I now can read spreadsheets based off of this process. So you want to start playing with, even if you're a small organization, start playing with making sure that you create an annual budget, no matter what it is. Create these budgets so that whenever you're ready to plug them in, you'll know how to, you'll know how to look at these and not be intimidated. Because I think that's the big thing, is that you look at this like a 15-page proposal, the one that we just did with 16 million, it was intimidating and we were able to answer it. But the funny part is that part of it was you couldn't be over 15 pages. Like, this is why it's so important to read. If they say they want Arial 12.5, read the directions. How do they want it? Do they want it double space or single space? And that's part of it, is don't give them stuff they don't ask for. Give them everything and articulate what you're trying to, whatever the question is, articulate that. For our grant that Belinda was talking about, it said nothing. They had no media, but it was also a grant that was designed off of a proposition. So they couldn't change it or make any kind of they couldn't budget for what I was really looking for. So I figured out how to make the work that my organization does and the partners that we serve, I figured out how to make them fit into the policy. And I don't know if that was a winning strategy. I mean, it was a winning strategy, obviously, because nobody else was funded to do the kind of work that we did. And I said mine initially was a pilot. That's what I said, because I said, I don't know how much this is going to be, but these are what we're estimating. And once again, we were able to win, but we answered all the questions, and it was a learning lesson to make sure, thank God we were able to change budgets later, because there were line items that I realized we should have had that we didn't have. But make sure you think about what these things are that you will need to carry out the work, and think about everything. If you need, I'm not saying if you need toilet paper, but if you need, I'm thinking about it from that's your overhead stuff, but whatever it is you need, if you need somebody estimate what their hours are going to be, you figure that out and you put those line items in place and title them. Because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you don't have the flexibility to go back and change that.
That is awesome. Awesome information. I want to give a shout out to Facebook. We have kept our attendance. We have 14 that is attending on Facebook. And so we are just really glad that they are there, and want to have them, join NAACP, and we thank them. Any of their questions, definitely get them to us. And then also, you talked about intimidation. So we don't want to be intimidated. So the process may look intimidating, but we can break through those intimidations as we do these workshops and learn how to deviate through all of that and prepare a successful response to an RFP. So if there's no other questions, I will propose the last question. Well, how competitive is it going after RFPs? How competitive is it?
It's kind of competitive. I mean, I don't know.
It depends on what you're going after too, I guess.
Because a lot of times they don't tell you, hey, we've got 7 million people applying for this, but they will say, you know, this RFP is being put out and we're only going to accept a certain number of organizations or a certain number of people. So I don't know usually, and I don't even ask that because that's another thing that make me feel more intimidated. Like,
well, and there's what I've learned with one of the people who I've been working with who's been very helpful to make us, you know, which made us successful to get the $16 million account. That's all she does all the time. She's not a grant writer. She just goes after business through RFPs. And she actually taught me, she says, you know what, you should go back and look at public record requests. Everything we submit is public record requestable. So public record requests, look at what somebody else responded to. Look at the winning proposal if it's available. I know that like under Covered California, there was a law where they had put into place that you couldn't, people had proprietary information, so they weren't going to be able to release it until so many years after the account was over. But if you can, public records request it. And not because you're trying to steal it, but you get an idea to see what a winning proposal looks like.
Awesome.
I agree. Yeah, I would say it depends on probably the popularity and the services that are going to be provided through that particular proposal. If it's something that is, you know, for example, if it's statewide, like the GoBiz grant was, but usually those types of grants are also working with a very particular population. And so if you're going for a grant that you know that your organization specializes in, that you have experience, you have history, you have the established partnerships, you're probably going to have a little easier time with the selection process. Not saying that you're guaranteed, but you know, when it comes to whittling down who's eligible, your organization is going to kind of shine a little bit more. So not saying that you shouldn't go for grants that you don't have experience with, but just understand that when you're applying through the state, then there's going to be a lot of competition. And so I usually would tell folks, you know, don't take it, you know, too personal for your organization if you're not selected for a grant, because there usually are a lot of applicants. Just use that, like Regina had mentioned, use that opportunity to do a public record request. At my old department in my previous job, we announced and we shared who was awarded, and we shared their work plans so that folks can actually see what work that they were that they were proposing. So if you have the opportunity, take a look and do some research and see, okay, this grant maker is looking for these types of organizations. If it's a smaller grant opportunity that's maybe more localized to a community, and if you have experience with that type of work, again, you probably have a little less competition than if it were a statewide grant, but also there's still going to be some competition there. So it's just a lot of things to take into consideration, which is why you really want to make sure that you answer everything that's in the application, that you don't leave out any information. If it's 12 font, don't use 11.5, you know? So just make sure that everything is there.
Excellent, excellent. Well, as we wrap up, go ahead, Betty. Did you have something to say?
No. I finished summarizing and then I'll close it out.
All right. So as we get ready to wrap up, I think one other thing that I wanted to ask, and you guys have hit on that, some places where you find RFPs. Do you guys have any, the ones that you haven't shouted out today? Is there any other places you would suggest that we connect with for RFPs?
I don't know, but I want to say one thing is that there are some cities that will approach you and ask you to do things and say that they don't have money for the outreach. But I think that with where we are now and how COVID has kind of put us in a place where we're doing everything virtual and it's all dependent upon who you know and who your group is, there is money for targeted outreach. Don't give them that for free. Don't give it to them, because they're calling Regina. She's got a call from someone saying, hey, can you put this out? When I've already met with them and told them, like, we can help you. We can put a whole group of people together to get the information out, but they don't want to use the money that's set aside for that on our businesses, on Black businesses. So the question is, are we really that important to you or not? So I just want to say, if it's not an RFP and you get a call and they want you to just do something just because you have the audience, I mean, I get that we want to make sure that we have the opportunities, but we need to figure out a better way to work together and make sure that we're included in these opportunities that are available.
Very good point, Selena.
Amen.
Yes, that's a great point. I love that. Thank you, Selena. One other resource I'd like to highlight, so for grant opportunities and RFPs in California, is grants.ca.gov, and then I can put that in the chat as well. Also has statewide opportunities. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Belinda. And we're closing, and we'll turn it over to the closer. Oh, Regina, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Regina.
Oh, no, I have nothing to say. I know when to be quiet.
No. All right, and we're going to turn it over to the closer, Betty Williams.
Regina, you be quiet. That's an oxymoron, by the way. I thank all of you ladies for joining us and sharing with that information. And I would probably also add, if you do not receive your RFP the first, second, third, however many times, if you have the opportunity to ask the group, what could you have done better? If there's an opportunity to reach out to whoever was overseeing or making an appointment and says, can we go over why didn't I, or what did I miss, or what could I do better? So when you go after another one, at least you won't make the same mistakes twice. That's what I would suggest. But Regina Wilson and Belinda, give me your last name again. Selena Pryor. I should be looking at.
Van Zandt.
I'm sorry, Stacy?
Belinda Van Zandt. She was saying her
Van
name.
Zandt, yes. I remember that Belinda was my angel, so I never remembered anything else beyond Belinda, so that's why that's there. And once again, we had a powerful pact. It seems like every month we have all this information through the NAACP, and I'm just excited about the fact that we are giving this information. So hopefully the objective is that we're going to grow more businesses in Sacramento, or give them more resources or funding to survive if we give them this information and nuggets. And so I really want to know how many Black businesses and minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses who receive this information and you shared with someone else. Where will we be this time next year? Will we have grown because you were able to utilize this information and get the resources you needed for your business or your business idea? So in order to stay connected with the NAACP, become a member. Membership is power. The information is up there to join through our NAACPSAC.com or text at 916-856-0155 and become a member. It's only $30 for a year or $750 for a lifetime membership. And as I'm closing out, I understand we have one more last question. And I know we are over time. I'm going to allow that question because he's my first vice president. And then after that, we are going to close it out. Ardell?
Yes, on the RFPs, RQs, is it to your benefit to partner with more than one person? So let's say you have a certain amount of information that you provide or certain amount of services that you provide, and there's 9 or 10 other people, is it okay to partner with multiple partners, or would you just go with one person?
I would say this, and I'm gonna let Belinda really answer it, but because I think it depends on how the RFP is structured. So once again, it goes back to read, and look at how it's structured. I will say that on one of my grants, I ended up partnering with somebody who I later fell out with, like our business relationship tanked. And thank God we were at the end. We knew how to still be civil or whatever, but you, like Belinda said, you want to make sure you have a relationship. Their work product, in my opinion, wasn't the same as my work product. I was working to help them and trying to help them grow, but they didn't understand the program. So they were doing things that were just going through the motions, where I felt like I was doing it to do the right thing. So, you know, if you can partner with somebody and they make you stronger, great. But if you're partnering with them because you don't want to do the grant information yourself or whatever, I would tell you don't do that. Like, I would always look at it and look at what the grant says. And if you have a good partner, somebody who you know is strong in another area that's going to make you have a winning proposal, and you guys work well together, then go right for it, you know, if the grant allows for that. But always be careful who you partner with. Learning from my lesson. That's a learning lesson.
And Regina, you answered the question better than I could. So I'm going to put myself back on mute. Everything that she said.
And always look for the people who don't have their own stuff. Like, look at me. I mean, that's what my learning lesson should have been. Whenever I saw that the person that I went in the grant with never always had to have a different fiscal sponsor for different things. Like, I was working to make sure that I could be my own entity. I do want to help other entities. We just haven't gotten into it just yet because my CPA is just making sure all of our stuff is straight. But, you know, I want to be a pass-through. I mean, that's why I'm writing some of these grants that I will write, because the more money you show you can handle as a nonprofit, the greater money you get to take in. So you want to be able to handle a lot of money, because you won't be, and you want to handle it from a lot of different places, because you will not be, there's a whole thing called tipping and all this other stuff. So you want to have money from lots of different places so that you can continue to grow. But that is like, you know, I know you do, but just make sure everybody you have, like, make sure the accounting and all of that is solid. Like, I've always said to anybody, y'all can look in my books any day of the week. That's how confident I am about everything that I do. We have money. You can look at our stuff and you will see that everything is straight laced. So you just want to make sure that you are operating in that. And if you're working with somebody else, that they've operated in that manner too. Because the fiscal is very important.
Oh, so you answered your question, Ardell?
Yes.
Okay. With that, Lorraine, do you have any closing remarks? Hiding behind the NAACP logo? Are you? Okay, did we lose Lorraine?
We might have.
Okay, that's okay. Well, I want to thank everyone again. This was a powerful 2.5 hour ACP. It's normally 2 hours, but the information was so great today. We just didn't want to stop it, and so we want to make sure. So everyone, same time next month, second Saturday, starting at 10 o'clock, 10 to 12, we'll have our next NAACP general membership meeting, and hope to see everyone there. Invite a friend. We will have all this information on our YouTube channel. If you came in the middle and missed part of it, it will be on. It normally takes a couple of days, might even be sooner, but at least a couple of days before it's on the YouTube channel. And so you can check it out from there. And so from there, Madam Secretary, we're officially adjourning the meeting at 12:30, and see everyone next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you so much for all that information. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mhm.
Bye.
Thanks.